Hi guys. Yeah, girl's back. Oh gosh, I have to tell you, it's been a busy day. So anyway, this is this next part of my real dangers of boondocking and some of the stuff I endured. Okay, I have the hiccups and I was sneezed. Oh, I'm telling you guys, I haven't been feeling well. Oops. Excuse the hiccups. So, we're at the campsite across the 260. Well, this particular morning it had been 16 days, and we're all under the assumption that we have been sitting on BNL land, and that across the street was Prescott National Forest. And so we're going to all pack up and go back across the street. Now, the guy who was lateral, I'm sorry, I have the hiccups, who was lateral when I first got there, he left that morning. He was heading to Buckeye, Arizona to winter there with his family. And he had left about 7 a.m. And Bob came to me and said, oops, excuse me, when do you want to leave? And I said, well, I was going to leave in the morning. And Bob says, well, I'm leaving now. So Bob packed up and Bob pulled out, at which time the guy in the old beater truck with the old beater camper shell just happened into the campsite and inquired, where'd everybody go? Oh, excuse me. Oh, this is as real as it gets, you guys. Anyway, I said, well, we're all pulling out, and I'll be the last one. I'll be pulling out in the morning. So he stayed there and consumed my time for an hour. And then finally I said to him, you have got to go. I have packing to do. And he said, oh, okay. And so he left. Well, you remember I made a video about the coolest RV I'd ever seen. It was an old army truck that had been made into a camper. Can you tell I don't want to start this video over? Anyway, Bob wasn't gone 5 minutes, and I had taken Chloe for a walk, and I was coming back. Not Chloe, I had already had the other little dog by then. And as I come around the back of my rig, a man stood there, a stranger. I had never seen this guy. And I said, can I help you? And he says, we've never met. He said, I'm in that rig right there. The rig that was really cool that looked, out of an old army truck. And I said, well, you've been here 10 days. And he said, yeah. And I says, and now that everybody left, you want to introduce yourself? And he says, well, now that we're here alone, I suspect we'll become very good friends. I said, we're not here alone. I'm leaving this evening. And I excused myself. At that point, I almost thought it was him who was rocking my RV in the middle of the night, but I also realized it had been going on. So maybe it wasn't him, but I still didn't feel safe being there alone. So I decided to pack up my rig at like 2 in the afternoon and leave by 5. That's a feat. That is a feat, because it's going to take you an hour and a half, 2 hours inside to safely put everything away, and then you got to pack outside. Knowing that I was going to run late, I called the guy in the old beater truck and said, could you run up here at 5 p.m. and help me load my generator? And he said, of course, but where are you going? I said, I'm going to go ahead and leave tonight because I don't feel comfortable here all alone. And he goes, oh, okay, I'll be there by 5. Well, I got everything packed. 5 o'clock comes. It's starting to get dusk, and he's not there. And I thought, what? What the? Because this guy was never late, you guys. Ever. Ever was this guy late. So I thought, well, you know what? I've been loading this generator on my own forever. I got a way to do it without hurting myself. So I loaded my generator. And just as I was pulling out, a half hour later, here he comes on this bicycle, a bicycle in the middle of nowhere down a holy road. And I said to him, where'd you get the bike? Oh, I decided to ride the bike here. Now, we were only a quarter of a mile away from each other. If he walked, which he never did, it would have only took him 5, maybe 10 minutes. This man never walked to my camp. He drove to my camp every time. So I told him, I don't need your help, I'm leaving right now. As I was leaving, a crazy female, that I'll introduce in another video, pulled up and said, "Oh, where'd everybody go? Where are you going?" I said, "Back across the street, 1,000 Trails." Said, "You're welcome to group up with us if you want to." And I left. Well, I got there. It was almost dark, but I unloaded everything. And just as I was getting ready to fall asleep, the guy in the truck from the other campsite was blowing up my phone. It kind of pissed me off, but I ignored him, went to sleep. Well, the next morning I got up, walked to my rig, and listened to his text message. He had gotten a ticket over on the BML land for being there over 30 days. And he was screaming at me in this email or this voice message. And I was kind of like, why is he yelling at me? I told him to leave. I told him not to overextend his stay. I told him that I had seen rangers. So I called him back. I said, "Why are you yelling at me over my phone?" "Well, you left last night." "Yes, I left last night, but what does that have to do with me and you getting a ticket?" He goes, "Well, I just want you to know that you have to leave there now because this is not BML land. This is Prescott Forest land." So essentially, you guys, I had spent 15 days originally on 1,000 Trails, crossed the street, spent 16 days on land I thought was BML land, which was actually Prescott Forest, and then went back across the street and spent at least one more night on land I thought was a whole different entity. Well, how he talked himself out of a $260 ticket, I will never know. He got an $85 ticket. Now, what I didn't tell you is he told me the day I met him that the day he pulled in there, a ranger went by. That man sat there for almost 2 months in the same spot, never moved. So anyway, he knew where I was at. He knew that if I wasn't going to be there, I was going to go to another road that was very secluded and that Bob would be with me. That's where he wanted me to be. So I told him, I'm sorry, just had lunch, sliders, delicious. But anyway, keto sliders. Anyhow, so I went out and told Bob. I said, "Bob, we can't stay here. We've we've been on the Prescott Forestry land for way over a month, and they were giving out tickets across the street. And supposedly the guy in the truck told me that the ranger said, 'I'm on my way over there again.' Well, that ranger never came over there that night. But that night, that woman who followed us over, Pam, had a crush on Bob. I know, right? Drama for a bunch of old people in the middle of nowhere. She ended up stealing the water cap off of my RV. That's when I had to spend hours draining, rinsing my fresh water tank. That's why I missed Bob the next day. But, so Bob says, "We'll leave in the morning." I said, "Oh," he says, "we need to leave now." And I said, "Absolutely." Well, Bob could have his rig packed up in less than a half hour. I don't know how he did it, but he was pulling a trailer. Okay. Bob was getting ready to pull out. We coordinated, and I said, "You go get us spots. I'll be there in a couple hours. I got to burn out the gas in my generator because you guys, the minute I got there, I filled up my generator. That's 3 or 4 days worth of gas. I ran that generator, I kid you not, 5 hours. Then I had to go into town, dump my freshwater tank, fill my freshwater tank, bleach my freshwater tank, empty it, and fill it again. So I ended out where we were supposed to meet 6 hours late. Typical Tammy. Okay, 6 hours late. At which time, Bob was nowhere to be found. Nowhere. And what I didn't tell the guy in the old truck was we weren't going to Cornell Road, that me and Bob were heading to the 525 Forest Road. But Bob wasn't there. So on my way in, as I'm coming in and I'm hitting the second big group campsite area on Forest Road 525 between Cottonwood and Sedona, a Harley goes buzzing by me. And I kid you not, on the dirt road in the middle of nowhere. a guy on a Harley goes flying by me. And I didn't even look at him. But I got to the campsite and I went to, there was 2 entrances. I took the second entrance, and as I'm pulling in, I noticed in my rearview mirror somebody was behind me. Guess who? The guy on the Harley had went up, turned around, and was following me. I'm not lying. If I'm lying, I'm a dying. So anyway, I pull in. I find a spot that I want to park, thinking Bob's going to be there, making sure there's room for Bob. And I park. And the minute I turn off my key, this guy is off his bike and standing at my driver's side window. And the minute I looked over, he goes, "Hi." I said, "Why did you follow me in here?" Now, I didn't open my door, and I only rolled down my window a little bit. And I said, "Why are you following me?" And he goes, "Well, I seen that you were alone and thought you might want company." I said, "No, sir. I have a husband who is handicapped in the back of this rig. I need no company." I said, "As a matter of fact, I would appreciate it if you stepped away from my rig." At this time, he said, Hey, lady, yeah, I'm not trying to cause you no shit. I'm just here for the night." I said, "Well, then go to your campsite and leave me alone." He left. He was probably, I don't know, 50 feet away from me in a bush. He had a one-man tent and a motorcycle. So I'm out there and I'm unloading my rig in this particular spot, and I turn around and he's right there. And I said to him, "I thought I told you to go away. I'm busy." And he goes, "Lady, I'm not here to cause no trouble. I just want to know if you have some extra water." I said, "I do have extra water, but this is how we're going to do this." I said, "You're going to leave my campsite like I've asked you to do twice now." I said, "I will bring you water when I can get to it." Is exactly what I told this guy. He goes, "Okay, cool." And he left. Well, when I got around to it, I always carried 15 to 16 extra gallons of bottled water with me every time I went out, so I would have enough fresh water to last me the whole time I wanted to be out, okay? I take 2 of my gallons, I walk over to his motorcycle, I set them down, and I said, "I brought you 2. 1 to drink and 1 to wash with." Because just like the young girl at the other campsite, I could smell him coming. And I went back to my rig. Well, that night I fell asleep. There was no rocking of the rig. The guy on the motorcycle did leave me alone. He actually went around visiting the other people in the area and made me very happy. But the next morning I woke up and realized that I was parked in stickers. I had nothing but goat heads all around me, beside me, behind me, in front of me. So I spotted another spot. So I pack up my rig and move my rig. After I move my rig, here comes the motorcycle guy. And he's returning 1 empty bottle. And I said to him, "Where's my other bottle?" And he said, "I sold it." I said, "You sold the water I gave you?" I said, "That was my water." I said, "How much did you sell my water for?" And he said, $1. I said, "You owe me $1. He goes, "I need gas." I said, "You know what, whatever." I said, "Forget it." I said, "Do me a favor, just get away from me." Because he'd really pissed me off selling my water that I gave him because I felt sorry for him. Just saying. So I set up my camp, and I'm happy there. And life goes on. Well, I wake up that next morning, and true to his word, that biker is long gone. Didn't hear him leave, but he did leave me a little care package outside my rig when he left. His garbage. With a little note. "Thought you wouldn't mind throwing this away for me." Yep, right. Right. Pissed me right off. But I would rather him leave it in my rig than me have to walk around and pick it up, because I always clean my campsite and another campsite anytime I'm out boondocking before I leave. So I thought, power for the course. What an idiot. And I threw his trash away. Well, I'm there about 5 days. There's no Bob. Finally, I get a hold of Bob, and Bob said, "Tammy, you didn't show up. I didn't like the spot." He ended up going over to Cornell Road, way in the back. I wasn't moving over there, you guys. Not only that, I got contacted by the guy in the truck with the camper going, "Where the hell are you at?" I'm over on Cornell Road, and all I can find is your buddy Bob, who doesn't know where you're at, because I told Bob, don't tell anybody where I'm at. And I said to this guy, still believing that this guy is trustworthy, I said, I decided not to camp there. I'm actually over on FR 525, and that was probably about 20 miles away from this guy. Now, at this time, I was starting to suspect this guy just a little bit, because since I've moved away from him, my trailer hadn't been a rockin' at all. And I mean at all. And so, at this time, I had no dog. I had that little blue-eyed dog I had got. I had to get rid of her within days because she was just having a miserable time. My friend Bob said, Tammy, you need to rehome that dog now. But anyhow, I had no animal at this time. It was the first time since I'd been out boondocking I didn't have a dog. So, trusting this guy in the truck, I told him where I was. Well, he says, well, I probably won't see you anyway because I have no gas money. Now, when payday came, I was pulling out and going to limp my way to Phoenix. And I told him that. I said, well, then I won't ever be seeing you again. Good luck. Happy trails. It's been nice knowing you. Is exactly what I said to this old guy. And so I go about life being all alone, making new friends, because there's probably 10 people at the least in the circle of camp area. And I'm starting to make new friends, and life is sweet. I made videos of hiking and stuff. Well, I wake up one day and I'm sitting outside having my coffee, and who pulls up? Mr. No Gas. And I said to him, I thought you didn't have any gas. And he said, oh, I pawned something so I could come see you. I said, well, that's awful generous. I wouldn't have pawned anything to come see you, because I found it kind of weird that somebody would go out of their way to pawn something to have gas enough to come find me. Just saying. So this guy says, do you have any hot chocolate? Because this 70-year-old man didn't drink coffee. I said, no, I don't have any hot chocolate. And he said, well, can I use your bathroom? I said, you cannot use my bathroom. I said, you know I don't let anybody in my rig. And he said, oh, I just thought you might since we've known each other. I said, no, I don't let anybody in my rig. I'm sorry. So we sat outside, and I'm thinking he's going to visit for a half hour, 20 minutes. He tried to get me to go into town to a food bank. No. He tried to get me into town to get water. Don't need water. He tried to get me into town to go shopping. Don't need food. He tried to get me in his truck and out of there for 4 hours. Finally, I said to him, look, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. You need to go. I've got things I've got to get done, and you've sat out here and pretty much done nothing for 4 hours. Thanks for coming by. I'm leaving in a day or two. I said, I'm leaving on the 2nd. This was like 3 days away. I said, I wish you the best. I said, maybe we'll run into each other down in Ehrenberg, because everybody knew that I was heading to Ehrenberg. And I want to say something to you guys. There wasn't one boondocker that I met the whole time I was out, and I met a lot that knew of the RTR in Ehrenberg. You guys, these were real boondockers. These were people who didn't get on YouTube. These were people who had this lifestyle way before old Bob made it popular. Okay? So I had told everybody about the RTR and that it was my first year and I really wanted to go. I had a couple of my friends down there panning for gold. And he said the same thing. Well, I want to pan for gold. Maybe I'll head down there. So we said our goodbyes about 3:30. I got him out of there. He left. Now, I thought, you know, I'm really tired of being here. And I was getting ready to start packing up so I could leave in a couple days. So I went in, and true to my nature, I was feeling antsy, and I really couldn't pinpoint it. But I went to bed, and I was sleeping like a baby when I heard a window open. Now, I've told you guys many a times that RVs, especially the Class C I was in, the walls were so thin, it had single pane windows. You could hear a frog fart. You could hear an ant sneeze. You could hear people walking around your rig. You could hear people 5 rigs over talking. I heard a window of my rig open, which startled me because I knew, without a doubt, because I had walked my rig that night, that I had no open windows. I had no windows that were unlocked. So I come flying out of my bed, and at the time I had my bear mace and a knife. I come flying out of my bed, and I knew the noise came from the side of the house on the driver's side. There was only one window that anybody could have climbed into on that side of the house besides the window I was sleeping right next to. And that was the big window that was behind my TV that my TV had blocked. Now, remember, nobody's been in my house. Nobody knows that window is inaccessible. You can come in that window, but you're going to make a hell of a racket knocking my stuff down just to get in that window. Okay, if you can get past that 42-inch TV. So I came out in the living room, and I knew that it was that window. And sure enough, I pull the curtains back, and the window is open this much. This much, you guys. At that point, I lost my temper. I put my gun in my pants, I grabbed the stick, and I went out screaming. I mean, so screaming that there were lights popping on around me. I was screaming. I went out my door. I headed to the back because when I first woke up, what woke me up was somebody was rattling the chains to my gas cans. Yep, that's what initially woke me up. What startled me awake was the sliding of my window. So I headed around the back. Sure enough, one of my 5-gallon cans had been messed with. Somebody had tried to actually open it. I went around the back. Now the back of my rig faced the desert. The front of my rig faced the inner part of the circle where everybody was parked. In the back, I had 6 yardsticks, 3 to 4 feet out, so that I could see anything from the yardsticks to my RV. Whoever was there had moved so far out of sight that even stepping past the yardsticks, I could not see anybody. And I was frantic. I was screaming. I was yelling. I was cussing. And I was daring them to come near enough to me that I could beat the fuck out of them. Whoops, did I say that? So I could beat the shiznick out of these people. They had me so frightened. I was so tired of it. I was so tired of it, you guys. I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand it. I had got to sleep well for almost 10 days. No rocking of my rig. There was no rocking of my rig the whole time. Nobody knew where I was. The whole time that this old guy did not know where I was. No rocking. I was actually sleeping at night. And I gotta tell you, the biker and that old man in the truck were the first 2 people that came to my mind. Now, since I had thought that the guy in the truck, the guy who looked like a vagrant, since I thought he was my friend, my mind went right to the biker. Okay, I thought that guy has come back. Remember? He sold my water for gas money. And I thought he had come back to get gas. I never thought that that this other guy in the truck had went and pawned something to get enough gas to find me. It never crossed my mind. It didn't even think about it, you guys. I went right to the biker who sold the water I gave him for $1 to put gas in his Harley. And I was furious. I went back, I fixed my gas cans. I actually took my gas cans, unchained them, and locked them inside my rig, which we all know is a no-no. Locked them inside my rig, and I went in my rig and set to packing up my house. I wasn't due to be paid for another 3 days. But I had a full tank of gas, and I wasn't sticking around anymore. And you know, the funny thing is, I was packing up the next day, the outside, burning out the gas that was in my generator, and just essentially packing up to get the hell out of there. Guess who called me? Yeah, the old guy in the truck. What are you doing? I said, I'm packing up. He goes, you're leaving? He goes, I thought you weren't leaving until the 2nd. I said, no. I said, I'm leaving now. I said, somebody tried to get in my rig last night. And I said, and I'm not playing around. I said, I'm going to shoot somebody. Because I told this guy out of the gate, the very first day I met him, that he walked up on me and I didn't hear him. I told him, I said, lucky I didn't shoot you. He knew I had a gun. He knew I had several guns. This guy knew that I would use those guns. And I told him, somebody tried to break in my rig last night. They got in the sliding window. I didn't tell him the TV was blocking it. I just said, they opened my window. I said, and they messed with my gas cans. And I don't know if he thought I was accusing him or what, but he got a little indignant, and I told him straight out, I don't give 10 shits what you think. I'm out of here. Well, where are you heading? I said, I'm heading down to Phoenix. I said, and I'm sure that you're not going to go where I'm going. I said, because I'm going to childhood friend's house. I said, and if you think I have ammunition, I said, don't kid yourself. And plus, you're not welcome there. My friends and family don't like strangers coming around their places. And now, you know what, I get it now. I used to be mad at my friends and family because they didn't let people around that I had met. Now I get it. I guess I'm just not a good character. No sense of character. So anyway, I pull out at about 5 p.m. at night. Now, I hit town, I gas up, I do everything I have to. God got me down to Arizona. He got me down doing 10 miles an hour. They were working on I-17, which is known as Black Canyon Freeway, and all the way down. All the way down. I crept along for hours. I finally hit Phoenix and went to my childhood friend's house, and I parked in front of his house for the next 7 days. And yes, I felt secure. Did I ever see the person who opened that window that night? No. Did I ever see that biker again? No. Did I ever see the lady who stole my water cap again? No. Let me tell you real quick what happened with her. When I met this lady, I told her straight out, I don't have girlfriends because most of the women I've ever met are catty, they're backstabbing. If they're not chasing your man, they think you want their man, and I'm just not into that, you know. So if you show any signs of drama or cattiness, I'm done. You can go. Well, the whole time that I knew her, she would come to the camp and say, Bob has a crush on you. Bob has a crush on you. Now, mind you guys, every time she'd come to camp, Bob disappeared. And I asked Bob, why do you go away? I said, you could help her instead of me trying to help her. I'm crippled. He said, Tammy, she gives me bad vibes. That's all he would say. The lady gives me bad vibes. Her name happened to be Pam, by the way. And so I invited her to come across to Thousand Trails again when we left what we thought was the BML land. She did indeed show up that night. This woman told me that she was a Christian, that she was a widow. She didn't want to date anymore. She didn't drink. She didn't smoke. She didn't do drugs. Well, check it out, you guys. That night when she finally showed up, and she parked right between me and Bob, which there really wasn't the room, she was drunk, smoking a cigarette, and cussing like a sailor, and flirting with Bob, all in one. I looked at her and I said, you, madam, are a liar. You need to move your rig away from my rig. I don't want you near my camp. And she was a little pissy, but didn't really stand up to me and said, okay, I'll move. And she did, but in the middle of the night, she took my water cap, and God only knows what she poured down my tank. But she was never to be seen again. So anyway, you guys, the story continues. The story continues. You know, in hindsight, it was my own gullibility. even though I thought I was being safe, like when the biker come pulling up on me, when the young couple came out at me, I thought I was being safe. But I have to say, if you've ever watched crime videos, or you've watched videos of these sickos stealing kids and walking away with them on a video, when those people do that, they don't look crazy. You can't tell they're murderers or serial killers. My door just opened. You cannot tell a crazy person, a pervert, a serial killer by looking at them. 90% of the time you can't tell that there's anything wrong with them, because they have made it their job to come off as normal as possible. They are masterminds and narcissists. They will give you the illusion of safety, of comfort, of being your best friend, your uncle, your daddy. They're going to give you anything to put your guard down. Now, the old guy in the truck, in the old truck, many times had seen me interact with strangers or people that made me feel threatened in a moment of time. And he knew what he had to do to get close to me. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret that'll be in my next video. I've actually put this man on my YouTube channel. I got this man a job where I work. That's how unsuspecting I was of this man. And if he had not made one fatal error and lack of judgment, to this day, I would not have believed that it was him the whole time terrorizing me. But now, in hindsight, that I put everything together, there wasn't a time that he didn't know where I was, that my rig wasn't shaking, that he wasn't underneath listening, under my bed, doing whatever, and I don't even want to think about it. There wasn't a time he wasn't watching me, scheming. And I didn't even realize it, you guys. There were so many times I was in that old junk truck that he could have veered off and took me to the middle of nowhere and ended my life, because I only took a little mace with me. I didn't even have a knife 90% of the time, because I trusted him. I trusted him so much that the very day that he found out where I was parking up on Forest Road 525, that all of a sudden my house was being broken into, my cans were being stolen. So you guys, the dangers are real.